Hello friends, you can log on to primeaptacademy.com to access complete free video courses. Okay, so over here A and B are mutually exclusive events. Probability of event A happening is 0.4. Probability of event B happening is 0.2. We need to find the probability that neither event A nor event B happens. Okay, so first of all, we know that these are mutually exclusive events, but first of all what we'll do is let's treat them as two events. Okay, and we'll see what scenarios we can create with these two events. From what I mean is, the first scenario is that event A happens, okay, event A happens and event B doesn't happen, and event B doesn't happen. Okay, this is one of the scenario. The second scenario is event B happens and event A doesn't happen. This is the second scenario. The third scenario is A doesn't happen, B doesn't happen. Okay, and the fourth scenario is A happens and B happens. Okay, these are the four situations we can get through two events. So the first situation is that event A is happening, B is not happening. The second is B happening, A not happening. Third is both of them don't happen, and fourth is both of them happens. Now these are mutually exclusive events, so that means both of them cannot happen together. That means this goes out. Okay, that means if I add the probability of each of these cases, that should be equal to 1. Okay, so probability of event A happening and event B doesn't happening. Okay, now these are mutually exclusive. If event A happens, B will not happen. Okay, so for that the probability will be the probability of event A, which is 0.4. Okay, so that means over here, if I find the probability of A happening and B not happening, that probability P will be 0.4. Now in the second scenario, B is happening and A is not happening. Okay, the probability will be 0.2. Okay, because B is happening, these are mutually exclusive, so A will not happen. Okay, and finally A doesn't happen and B doesn't happen. That is what we have to calculate, probability of neither A nor B. Okay, so this is what we have to find. So probability of neither, this is this probability, neither A nor B. This is what we have to find. Okay, so now if I add these three probabilities, it should be equal to 1. So 0.4 plus 0.2 plus x, let's call this x. This should be equal to 1. So 0.4 plus 0.2 is 0.6. So 0.6 plus x is 1 is equal to 1. So from here we can say x is 0.4. So this is what we have to find. So this is equal to 0.4. So probability of neither A nor B equals 0.4. And that is the correct answer. Okay, so what we did was, over here, just a recap for this question, there were two events given to us. What we did was we listed out the four scenarios that can happen with those two events, that one of them can happen, like A happens, B doesn't happen, or B happens, A doesn't happen, or the third scenario is A doesn't happen, B doesn't happen, or the final scenario is A happens and B happens as well. Now these are mutually exclusive events, so A happens, B happens is ruled out, so we have crossed that out. We have found the probability for each of these three events, and that should be equal to 1. Why? Because any one of these three has to take place. Okay, for sure it has to take place. Okay, because either when A is happening, B is not happening, B is happening, A is not happening, or the final situation is both of them are not happening. Okay, so one of them has to take place. So if I add their probabilities, that should equal to 1, which is 100% chance. Okay, so the probability for A happening, B not happening is 0.4. Okay, because these are mutually exclusive, so when A happens, B doesn't happen automatically. So that is 0.4. Then probability of B happening and A not happening is 0.2. And probability of A and B both not happening, which is what we have to find. Okay, we called it as X. So we added 0.4, 0.2 and X. Okay, that should be equal to 1. So that gave us X equal to 0.4. So probability of neither A nor B equals 0.4. All right. So that is how we solve this question.